Allah. It is July the 2nd, 2018, and it's going on 12 a.m. going on July the 3rd, 2018. Islam. I'm Rhonda Arrington-Bey. I'm laying in the room with my son Imani Gray-Bey. Allah. Allah. Before I start, I'm giving testimony according to Revelations 12, 10, and 11. Before I start, I'm going to read the Holy Quran. The opening. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Requital. Thee do we serve, and Thee do we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom those have bestowed favors, and not those upon whom wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray. Islam. Allah. I am doing a prayer. I've been on this journey, Rhonda Arrington-Bey, with my son, Imani Gray-Bey, since for a very long time. But I've been studying with Moorish American National Republic since the year 2013. Since the year 2013. Allah. As I studied with them, I was able to attune to a plane that you know of mentally. Never attuned to the plane before. While among Moors, and the first person that I attuned with was a man, a spirit. His name is Bey, Dwayne Bey. Many times I heard people say or state or imply he's from the planet Mars. You know, this is a planetary, I guess you want to say, Allah. I'm learning different terms. War or fight. Spiritual. Allah. As awakening soul, I had no idea about the planes. I fell in love, and I was married according to a law that I knew little of, but I knew I was married, and I was happy to be married because I love. At the time, Allah, I was living in a house that was connected to other Moors. These Moors were connected to Washita. I had paperwork because I've learned that you have to create your status spiritually and physically. Mentally and spiritually as a Moorish American. It's not just one. So these Moors sold me paperwork to help me correct not just my status, but my son's status, Imani Gray, who's now Bey. And at the time I had my youngest son with me, Abbas Malik Bey. His name is Beye naturally by birth because his father is from Senegal, West Africa. So he had his father's name, Beye. My name and my son, Imani Gray, our name is Bey because we had to annex this name, our ancestral name, to our straw man's name. I could never file these papers I kept trying and trying, but courts would not allow me to on the physical plane, and I didn't know why. The papers didn't have ancestral names on them. They sold us paperwork with names that we found, that I found that I connected to for money, but it didn't have ancestral names. So when I went to court or went to different places, the clerk's office, to file these papers, they wouldn't file them so that we could continue and get our driver's license and other which is state ID or social security card and other IDs on the physical plane, because this is part of correcting our status in our ancestral name. They wouldn't do it. They kept saying they never seen anything like this before. They kept calling it fraudulent. And this was papers that were sold by those members of the Washita. I didn't know how deep this went. All I knew is my spirit and soul cried because I trusted and I came to Moors with a pure heart because I am a Moor. I am a Moor, a soul. So I didn't know we were among others. And so that in this, by not being able to continue with your ancestral name, it not only keeps you in a jurisdiction that is not of freedom, but of bondage. It keeps you there physical, okay? Because it's demonstrating that you have not moved forward in correcting your status. So you are still navigating in a name that was given to your father by that which held you in bondage. Your father in bondage, or prisoners of war. So that demonstrates that you are in a jurisdiction, and in this jurisdiction that encourage bondage, there are many unclean spirits. And those that look like us that are not the same of us. They melanated, maybe pale skin, but they don't have a soul. But they are here to cause harm, to deter, to amalgamate forcefully. So this is planetary Allah, I see. Because this is dealing with a science beyond my thoughts at the time, because I had no idea we were among others in that mind frame. So I didn't know by not turning around, because when I found out, which I still didn't know how deep it was, how deep the betrayal was. I didn't know how deep this betrayal was. I just knew that they were wrong. And I cried out, and I cried, and I cried. I started to study for Moorish American National Republic. Once again, I didn't know the betrayal, and I didn't see the connections. And I loved a man by Arrington-Bey, and I trusted him. In the physical plane, in the spiritual plane, Allah, I have never ever cheated on him. I always uphold my vows. He was the first man I loved, the first man I kissed, the first man I connected with in the spiritual plane, sacred growth. Never, no one else. And this to me is something deep, and it's probably ancestral within inside of me that I didn't understand and didn't know how deep and why I love so deep, because I did love him deeply. I didn't understand I was among, even within being married to him in that plane among among Moors who will take advantage, including him, for many reasons. Because this is planetary, so there's government, politics, many ways for Moors to try to demonstrate who they are or connect with other spirits around the earth in nations. And if they're not connected to their highest self, the mother of virtues, love and right, breeds mercy, then they're connected to their lower self when they connect to these other nations, these other spirits. And possibly many of them may be soulless or are leading their people in the wrong direction. So I'm having understanding that correcting my status with my sons, Arrington-Bey, Bey, is a form of reclaiming birthrights and inheritance. Physically, on the physical plane and on the spiritual plane. Islam. Arrington-Bey was known to have married another woman who's from Australia. That's what I've been told. And in this marriage with her, there was conflict because the Moors did not see possibly me being fit to be with him, and he didn't see I was fit either. Because I have no money, Allah. I have very physical wealth, little physical wealth, and I knew very little of the spirits that I'm among. Not only that, but the Washita, which is a very huge nation, a branch in reference to Moors, the Moorish nation in this landmass in North America. Some of their major members had a conflict with me because I wouldn't turn around when I found out about the betrayal. When I understood how deep the betrayal was, or I started to understand, I started to connect dots a little bit, but I didn't know. I just knew, I just couldn't understand why and what effects it had on me and my sons by me not by what they had did. Because I'm awakening soul. Awakening means I was sleeping and I didn't know the jurisdiction I was among, that I was being held prisoner in, spiritually, mentally, and physically. But Moors knew. They knew, and they sat back. As time went on, I started, I fought to stay connected to who I saw as my husband, Dwayne Arrington-Bey. Even though I knew he was supposedly married to another, it didn't matter. And she was supposed to have status. She already had a nationality when she came over to this landmass. She's from Australia. She has more personal property, and she understood what more about the jurisdictions. And not only that, spiritually, dealing with magic or astrology, this was all included because this is all part of our birthrights, and she had knowledge of that as well. so she had a nationality. She's not from this landmass. She's from Australia, which is a connecting nations, because this Moorish American National Republic is a nation. We have a flag. It's a green star, 5-pointed green star, red flag. Those 5 points represents love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Okay. So she comes from another nation. So, and that continent of Australia, okay. So in this landmass, I started to learn more about Prophet Noble Drew Ali through Moorish American National Republic, and how the Holy Bible, we are the people of the book, and how Prophet Noble Drew Ali is a prophet that was sent by you, Allah, to help awakening souls here, not just here all over the earth, but here to reclaim their birthrights and inheritance. Here in this landmass, North America, northwest of Mexico. Learning in the Holy Bible, Isaiah 9 speaks of him prophesizing, this prophet Noble Drew Ali. Learning the different literatures and the importance of the Constitution, government, and how getting back into U.S.A. Constitution as Moorish Americans, getting back into that fold is one of the major keys of us reclaiming our birthrights and inheritance, and being able to navigate on the physical plane with our ancestral name, keeping us out of that jurisdiction. So we as Moorish Americans can navigate on this earth with less ties around our threats upon us on the physical plane as we continue our journey. And so this is a major key in knowledge to understand, understand and overstand of, and it connects back to why when I tried to file those papers that were sold to me by members of the Washita, why the clerks on the physical plane in courthouses looked at me like I was crazy, because it didn't correlate, or it did not connect to legitimate documentation. It didn't have an ancestral name. It just looked like paperwork, like paper, created. But Moors made money from. Moorish Americans. Allah. And so once again, this is also connected to birthrights inheritance. Allah, as time went on, I realized the more and more that I tried to stay connected to Arrington-Bey and Moorish American National Republic, it was very tough because I realized that I'm among a telepathic community. And a lot of energy spirits had a science that caused them to be telepathic. I didn't want it. But I started to feel different forms of threats as Imani and I continued. Many times it seemed like the military, the U.S., the United States military was involved. I didn't know. I didn't understand the connection. Even in North Carolina, our neighbors, when we lived in that house that was connected to the Washita, our neighbors were connected to the military. I think either the Navy or the Army, but I had no idea how it was connected to Moorish Americans. Not until I started to read and learn about President Abraham Lincoln's proclamations and the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. But once again, that is on the physical plane, but it's also spiritual. So on the physical plane, President Abraham Lincoln, Allah, put a check, like there's a check on the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch in the U.S.A. Constitution. President Abraham Lincoln, Allah, I see put a check on the military, the Army, and the Navy Authority to help us continue as Moorish Americans, and those who might not consider as Moorish Americans but wanted to get back into the constitutional fold by taking the oath of amnesty and reconstruction. Not affirmation, but an oath. Maybe they consider, maybe under the they're considered Europeans, Anglo-Saxons. But Abraham Lincoln put a check on the military so that they do not abuse their power, their authority. So on the spiritual mental plane, this is hard to prove. So because that is too is a jurisdiction. It starts, you have the jurisdiction physically and spiritually. So in North Carolina, as Imani Gray-Bey and I started to continue, I noticed I was noticing different things because I'm open to a plane spiritually, Allah, where I meet with this spirit and I assume a soul from Mars that I love. And I trust it. And he's a Moor. He considered himself a Moorish American. I didn't understand why there was so much conflict coming from or external energies coming towards me in reference to me staying connected to him. But once again, I didn't understand the betrayal that was done in reference to the paperwork that I received from the Washita. I didn't understand how deep it went. Nor did I understand or have understanding of the unclean spirits that me and my son are among as awakening souls. Allah. As time went on, many times through thoughts, the science of thought, or witchery from Moorish Americans, Okay, Moors that I looked up to, that I wanted to learn from as awakening soul, started to imply that there was a train done upon me. That means that I was tricked in many, and I was used in a spiritual plane sexually. Because sexually, I was connected to Dwayne Byfield Bey, that I loved. That's how we married. I didn't know why, and I thought possibly this was, but once again, I am awakening soul who know very little about not magic, but I'm trusting, and I'm on Moorish Americans who know and who consider themselves masters, Moabites, women who consider themselves masters, Moorish stars, souls. I moved to New York with my son, Imani-Bey. I sent my youngest son to New York, Abbas Bey, to be with his father. Dwayne Byfield Bey lives in New York, and I wanted to be close with him. Something drew me to him in New York. We stayed in the snow and the cold car for many days. He never came, but I could see on the spiritual plane we were still connected. He never came. Never picked up, never used cash money on the physical plane to help. So there was no proof that I was connected to Dwayne Byfield Bey on the physical plane. Only through the mental and spiritual awareness that many can see, and it's very real, that exists. And this is a jurisdiction that exists as well. It's like threats, different tones in my ear started to appear more, as though something was planted in my ear, my mind, like a tag, like you would tag a cow or ape. In New York, I kept hearing tones. I didn't know why. And the word, the implication that I was used for sex was constantly done through thoughts, body languages. I didn't know why. I had no idea. But through social media and spirit and mental plane, I stayed connected to Byfield Bey. I was still being attacked mentally. Then as time went on, it started to wear down on me, Allah. My spirit, my soul, I was just being worn down. Remember, Allah, my goal was to reclaim my nationality and my birthrights and inheritance before I met Dwayne Byfield Bey. I was like, why? Why is this happening? Then I started to experience new forms of attack spiritually, whether it was with my genitals being attacked. And I didn't understand why. This was in New York. I never had it done to me before, never experienced things like this before. This is year 2015. Or 2016, I documented it. I started hearing the tones in 2014. So 2015. So I didn't know why these attacks were happening. And these are things that cannot be proven on the physical plane, but they definitely are seen spiritually and mentally. And it's done by those who are Moorish Americans. That means they have reclaimed their status. They have a science that causes them to be telepathic. And those who are not, the quote-unquote unclean spirits. Allah. I ask for cleansing Allah of the Moorish American family and nation through thoughts, words, and deeds. Cleansing of righteousness and love, true peace, freedom, and justice. As time go on, I moved to Maryland because it became so bad in New York. It seemed I could disconnected myself from Byfield Bay. I was being attacked mentally in my sleep. On a sexual level, I had to wake up, sleep light. Never had this happen before. Never. This is 2015, year 2015, 2016. Never had it happen before. I didn't understand what I was experiencing. The words of divorce, he divorced you, was going around. Many spirits calling me a hoe, a whore, or speak of the word whore or hoe around me. I had dreams where I had to wake up constantly to protect myself. I come to Maryland. Me and my son, we're sleeping outside on the outside. We don't have shelter. We're sleeping outside of shelter because there's no room. We get a tent. I'm trying to stay connected because I was told in New York before we left that I was not able to come back to subordinate temple number 1 anymore, because and the letter stated in reference to Dwayne Byfield Bey. So I go to New York in the year 2015. I leave New York. Now, I was going to subordinate temple number 1, and I was in connection to Byfield Bey through social media and mentally. 2016, I leave. But before I leave New York, I'm told that I am on a restriction for 30 days to not come back to subordinate temple number 1. I never saw the lady from Australia, and I never saw Dwayne Byfield Bey on the physical plane. Never saw them at subordinate temple number 1. I just knew mentally I was always connected to Byfield Bey while I was there. But I could tell at subordinate temple number 1 that me being connected to him by some Moorish Americans was not accepted. Many times words about Washita would come up, gods of earth. Once again, I didn't understand how deep the betrayal went with the Washita, and that we were I was still trying to understand I'm among a different jurisdiction, and I didn't understand how birthrights and inheritance can be sold, or a betrayal can be done towards awakening souls. Allah, Moorish Americans. I come to Annapolis, Maryland. Me and Monty. I remember I was sleeping in the tent, and I was trying to stay connected to the Sheikh at Subordinate Temple Number 1 because I was so appreciative of the knowledge that I did learn, and I didn't truly understand why that they wanted to keep us from the temple for 30 days. I didn't understand why I received that letter. It was hurtful. I was in New York by myself with my son, Imani-Bey. We reclaimed our nationality while we were in New York, year 2015, but we didn't start correcting our status on the physical plane yet by alerting different government agencies. So I didn't understand why. I hadn't received my state ID yet in our ancestral name. All these things must be done, and I just didn't understand why. I tried to do it in New York, but I had problems in New York trying to do it by myself. And when I tried to call the National Grand Sheikh, Joe Arrington-Bey, in New York, he didn't pick up the call because he wasn't available, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember why. I don't know why. I never asked, but I kept trying to call him to let him know that I'm here at the DMV, and I'm trying to get our state ID in our ancestral name with this paperwork from Moorish American National Republic, Islam. With my son Imani-Bey. So as I'm sleeping in the tent in Annapolis, Maryland, trying to stay in contact. I started texting before I come here the Moors from Washington again, Allah, because I was trying to heal and reclaim friendships. I didn't know their hearts, and I didn't see them as a threat. Because once again, I still didn't get how deep the betrayal went. And how just because someone is Moorish American doesn't mean they have a soul. It doesn't mean they understand the importance of their higher self. Just because someone has reclaimed a nationality and they know about astrology, psychology, they can tell you some things that you should know about yourself, doesn't mean that they have righteousness flowing within their minds. So I'm trying to keep a connection and reclaim friendships with them. I'm sleeping in a tent with my son. And as I'm sleeping in that tent, I have a dream of a spirit, a male, just like I did right before dreams, before I came here, black, Negro, attacking my genitals or trying to have sex with me. I wake up quickly. And as I wake up, I receive a text, or I receive a text from the Subordinate Temple Number 1 Sheikh. Like right at that same time as I wake up, I'm in a tent now. And it was so odd because I just was molested in my sleep, and at the same time I receive a text. I was molested by an unclean spirit. See, I didn't understand how to degrade and devalue me as a soul could have been is a demonstration of me not being married. Because it was obvious, and it had been stated that I was married to Dwayne Byfield Bey as a soul, a spirit, a Moorish American, awakening soul. So I didn't understand how these actions demonstrated that I could be a single woman being used and be ready for an amalgamation on a plantation with unclean spirits. keeping me in a jurisdiction, a prisoner of war, a breeder, to make me and my son is a male, a breeder with unclean spirits that look like us but are not the same as us. So I did not understand this because I didn't understand the connection, not just in this landmass of the spiritual, mental science of telepathy and the spiritual plane, but in different nations all over the earth. Remember the woman, Dwayne Bafilbe Allah, see, he claims he loves is from Australia. That's a nation, a connection, just like Asia, Africa. Then I started to hear, as I started to attend the Temple, Moorish American National Republic, here in Maryland, different thoughts of how the National Grand Sheik, especially because I started to connect to Bafilbe again, the spirit from Mars, M-A-R-S, that I love, that our National Grand Sheik was part of the trickery, Arrington-Bey, that was done, that possibly was done in the mental plane. Of me being used sexually. And I didn't know. I'm thinking I'm with Dwayne Bafilbe, but I'm actually with something else. I didn't understand how this is a form or a demonstration of using a soul and preparing them to be used on a plantation. Demonstrating a sale of birthrights and inheritance. And also demonstrating a connection, a union, Allah, with unclean spirits. Many times these unclean spirits use the number 3 and other things from what they consider, Moorish Americans consider, the matrix. So the more and more I try to stay connected to Dwayne Bafilbe, the more and more I'm feeling threats again. I'm going to Moorish American National Republic. I'm stating I'm his wife as I go to Moorish American National Republic on social media. I'm connecting with him. I'm feeling more threats. I go to the naturalization ceremony. I'm thinking everything is okay between the Moors from Washita and I. But if I go to Moorish American National Republic naturalization ceremony in 2017, they blocked my number for reasons I did not understand. I didn't know why. Because I didn't understand the betrayal and how deep it went from years back, and what their intentions were, and why so many spirits keep saying the number 5. Oh, this is my testimony. So, Allah, I pray for a cleansing and purification of our nation, our Moorish American nation, through thoughts, words, and deeds, in love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Allah, I have never cheated on Dwayne Arrington-Bey. Never cheated. Ever. I always uphold my vows to him. Kept my intentions pure and clean. If I was tricked in the spiritual plane, it was done. And they knew. And they did it. And they did it very cold heart. They knew. They had a cold heart when they did it. They knew I didn't know. And I'm probably not the first, if this is the case. And he, Dwayne Arrington-Bey, had to have known and been a part of it. And the woman he claimed to love that comes from the nation of Australia, who has a nationality, and who's been navigating with her nationality over here in our landmass, she knows, and many Moabites knew. Many times I call Moorish American National Republic Witchery, W-I-T-C-H-E-R-Y, on the conference call, 7:30 p.m., 12 p.m. is done many times telepathically by Moabites, Moorish men, as though they don't want me to be there listening to them. I didn't understand why. Why? Like they're deliberately trying to get rid of me and my son, keep us from continuing this path, deterring us, helping those unclean spirits cause harm. Especially if I'm staying connected to Arrington-Bey. Now, if I continue with them, they want to. Then it's like a deliberate attempt to disconnect me from Arrington-Bey, as though they're trying to marry me or encourage some type of fear, so I don't uphold myself as his wife anymore. I don't demonstrate that I'm his wife anymore, or state that I'm his wife. Remember, the one that he loves and have done much sacrifice for, unclean thoughts and deeds for, is from Australia. That is a nation. That is a connection. And that's a connection to Moorish American National Republic, the Washita. So I didn't understand why. Why? They see I'm trying to learn with a pure heart, and I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm awakening, so I don't know. Trying not to accuse. Stay hopeful in the righteousness in the nation, in the soul of the nation. But they knew. They already had a plan. They already see, because they have the science that causes them to be telepathic. And plus, they consider themselves masters. And so they've been navigating and going back and forth with these jurisdictions for a while. Allah, I pray for divine cleansing and purification of my Moorish American family, of the members within the Moorish American family, of the earth and the universe, in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Since I've been here in Annapolis, Maryland, my dreams were manipulated. Those that looked to be from Spanish, Mexico, were used. Black, Negro, African American were used. The Middle Eastern from India used these unclean spirits, and they all claim to be connected to Moorish Americans in Moorish American National Republic or the Washita. They imply or claim straight out, and they say we paid them to do this. these unclean spirits. Moors have not refuted, because this is on a spiritual mental plane. It's a challenge to prove this. So Allah, I depend on Allah because Allah sees everything. Allah knows everything. So even though on a spiritual mental plane you can't see this being done, these spiritual attacks, these threats, these are accusations, but Allah, the universe, sees and knows. I have Imani-Bey we are still in the process of correcting our status by learning different government agencies of our change of status. Today is July the 2nd, 2018. Even though there's been issues at the employment, I work at Burger King. Been working there going on for 2 years. I have not implied to get a lawyer, but I would not get a lawyer from my Moorish American family, because it has been obvious that too many of them have been in connection to what I've experienced that were unclean in actions. They have been in unity with them for these things to happen. So why would I get a lawyer from my Moorish American family who are just used in a situation within a matrix because they're being clever to go back and forth into, for whatever reason, maybe politics, demonstration, just clever using. Why would I do that when I already know some of them were a part of some of the unclean harassments, or what I consider harassment or threats, or things that I have experienced that was not lawful at my job. As a pure heart, I can't. Once again, the attacks here while I sleep is a demonstration of me, of trying to show that I am a single soul, a woman who's not married to Arrington-Bey. Setting me up is a demonstration of to be breeded and my son Imani-Bey on a plantation in a jurisdiction. See, once again, Allah, I didn't know how deep this betrayal went. I'm going to read the Holy Quran, Circle 7, Chapter 35, Religion. There is but one Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. The Son is not Allah, though his noblest image. He enlightened the world with his brightness. His warmth giveth life to the products of the earth. Admire him as the creature, the instrument of Allah, but worship him not. To the one who is supreme, most wise and beneficent, and to him alone belong worship, adoration, thanksgiving, and praise. Who hath stretched forth the heavens with his hands, who hath described with his finger the courses of the stars, who set bounds to the ocean that it cannot pass, and say unto the stormy winds, be still, who shake the earth and nations tremble, who dareth his lightnings, and the wicked are dismayed, who call forth worlds by the words of his mouth, who smite with his arm, and they sink into nothing. O reverence the majesty of the Omnipotent, and tempt not his anger, lest thou be destroyed. The providence of Allah is ever all his works. He rule and direct with infinite wisdom. He hath instituted laws for the government of the world. He hath wonderfully varied them in all beings, and each by his nature conformed to his will. In the depth of his mind he revolved all knowledge. The secrets of futurity lie open before him. The thoughts of thy heart are naked to his view. He knoweth thy determination before thy are made. He, with respect to his prescience, there is nothing contingent. With respect to his providence, there is nothing accidental. Wonderful he is in all his ways. His counsels are inscrutable. The manner of his knowledge transcends thy conception. Pay, therefore, to his wisdom all honor and veneration, and bow down thyself in humble and submissive obedience to his supreme discretion. The Father is gracious and beneficent. He hath created the world in mercy and love. His creatures of his hand declare his goodness, and their enjoyment speak of his praise. He clothed them with beauty. He supported them with food. He preserved them with pleasure from generation to generation. If we lift up our eyes to the heavens, his glory shine forth. If we cast them down on the earth, it is full of his goodness. The hills and the valleys rejoice and sing. Fields, rivers, and woods resound his praise. But thee he hath distinguished with peculiar favor, and exalted thy station above all creatures. He hath endued thee with reason to maintain thy dominion. He hath fitted thee with language to improve thy society, and exalted thy mind with the power of meditation,